Today, we're going to do something really cool. We're going to hack our own brains and take a deep dive into the surprising science of how we learn, and, more importantly, how we actually make things stick.
You know the feeling, right? It's so frustrating. You spend hours, maybe even days, learning something new. You feel like you've got it, you're confident, and then a week later, poof. It's just gone, vanished. So what's the deal? Why do we forget things so easily?
Well, here's a crazy thought. What if I told you that forgetting isn't a bug? It's not a flaw in your system. It's actually a feature. Yeah, for real. Our brains are designed to be super efficient, and part of that means clearing out information that doesn't seem to be important. So the real trick is learning how to tell our brain, hey, this is worth keeping.
To do that, we first have to really understand our opponent. And that brings us to the big challenge every single one of us faces when we try to learn anything: the act of forgetting itself.
See, this isn't just a feeling you have. It's a real scientifically documented thing called the forgetting curve. It was figured out by a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus way back, and it basically shows that our memory of new stuff just fades away, like exponentially fast, unless we do something about it. Forgetting is our brain's default setting.
And wow, this chart really lays it all out there. Right after you learn something, your retention is way up here, you're feeling great. But just look what happens. After only one day, it takes a nosedive. After a week, it's even worse. And by the end of the month, you might only remember a tiny little piece of what you started with. This is the curve we need to figure out how to beat.
So how in the world do we fight back against our own brains? Well, believe it or not, the answer is kind of hiding in plain sight. We're going to do something a little weird. We're going to dissect a very simple artifact, just one sentence from a class outline, to uncover a super powerful blueprint for learning.
Okay, take a look at this sentence. I mean, it seems so normal, right? Almost boring. Students will review key terms and practice using them in conversation. But I'm telling you, hidden inside this one simple instruction are 3 incredibly powerful science-backed principles that can completely change the way you learn.
So let's put on our detective hats and break this thing down. We can pull out 3 core actions here. First, revisiting past material. Second, grouping it by theme. And third, practicing it in a conversation. Each one of these is like a secret weapon against that forgetting curve.
Now, this first clue is really subtle, but it's so important. The instruction doesn't say review last week's vocabulary. It says vocabulary from previous weeks. That little plural S on weeks changes everything. It's telling us to look back over time, not just at the most recent stuff we learned. And that points to our first major strategy.
It's a technique called spaced repetition. So instead of cramming everything at once, you review information at longer and longer intervals. You can think of it like taking care of a plant. You don't just dump a gallon of water on it one time and call it a day, right? No, you water it at strategic times to keep it healthy and strong. Every time you review something, you're sending a signal to your brain that says, hey, pay attention, this is important. And that's what stops the forgetting curve in its track.
Okay, so that tells us when we should be reviewing. But the next clue in our sentence tells us how we should organize that review to make it even more effective.
The second clue is right there. The vocabulary is grouped into different topics. Think shopping, food, hobbies, transportation. This isn't just for neatness. It's a very deliberate and very smart learning strategy.
You see, by grouping ideas together that are related, you're not just memorizing a list of random facts. You're building a mental map. You're creating this amazing web of connections inside your brain. It's kind of a difference between having a list of random street addresses versus having a full map of the city. That web makes every single piece of information way easier to find and pull up later on.
So we know when to review and how to organize the material. But this last piece of the puzzle, honestly, it's the most important one. This is all about moving from just passively knowing something to actively being able to use it. And here it is, the final clue, the real game changer. Practice using them in conversation. This is the step that takes knowledge that's just sitting in your head and turns it into a real, usable skill. This is where the magic happens.
I mean, just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got passive review. That's like reading a list of words or watching a video. You're just recognizing it. It feels easy. But on the other side, you have active practice. That's trying to use a word in a sentence or explaining a concept to someone else. It forces your brain to retrieve that information from scratch. It's harder, for sure, but it is so much more effective for building strong, lasting memories.
This whole idea has a name. It's called active recall.
It's the simple act of pulling information out of your brain instead of just trying to cram it in. Every single time you successfully recall something, you're strengthening the neural pathway to that memory. You're basically paving a highway to that piece of information, making it faster and easier to get to next time.
Okay, let's put it all together. We've got spaced repetition, thematic grouping, and active recall. These aren't just 3 separate tips you can try. They are 3 parts of one incredibly powerful system for true mastery.
Just think about that for a second. That one simple, kind of boring sentence we started with, it wasn't just a throwaway instruction. It was a complete, science-backed learning system hiding there in plain sight the whole time.
So here it is. This is your blueprint for mastering anything. First, you have to fight the forgetting curve with spaced repetition. Review stuff at strategic intervals. Second, build that mental map by grouping information together by theme. And finally, the most important step, force yourself to make that leap from passively recognizing information to actively recalling and using it.
This 3-part system, you can apply this to absolutely anything you want to learn. A new language, a musical instrument, how to code, anything. The only question left is, now that you have the blueprint, what will you master next?